to talk to you today. And we're full
Where's
on
Ashton
Zoom
Kutcher?
too.
I know, huh?
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. Hey, can everybody hear me at home? Let's
Which
just do
camera
a
is it?
check. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me.
That's the Zoom camera right there.
Okay, Allison's giving me a
Yeah.
thumbs up. Okay, great. Hi, everybody. Welcome. What a beautiful day. It's perfect. The weather's sunny just for us and our nights. Welcome any new people. Just a couple housekeeping things. If at any point you need to use the restroom, it's just right through that, underneath the deck, through those double glass doors to the left. There's coffee, water, cookies back there, so help yourself. Let's do a check of our phones. I'm going to check mine, double check. Let's make sure they're off. There's always someone that thinks it's off, and sure enough, we hear it buzzing. So thank you, appreciate you double checking. And just a reminder, folks, please no vaping in this space. We got all of us family members. With us sensitive moms, so we appreciate the no vaping guys. Thank you so much. Okay, so welcome to our very first Battlefield Addiction Spotlight Series, Leaders in Business. Tonight marks the beginning of something exciting, a space where community, recovery, and leadership come together in real time. This series is about connecting those rebuilding their lives in recovery and their families to the leaders who are out there building businesses, shaping culture, and building people. We're honored to kick things off with a leader who embodies all of that, Mr. Bryan Reynolds, co-founder and CEO of Anthem Coffee. Bryan is not only a successful entrepreneur, but someone who leads with heart, hustle, and deep commitment to helping others rise. From building an award-winning brand to coaching leaders across the country, Bryan brings a wealth of insight and, more importantly, purpose to everything he does.
Wow.
And leading,
Thank you.
I've been following him for a while. You know, I watch. I know what's going on. And leading tonight's conversation is our leader, a driving force in the world of addiction recovery, Mr. Art Dolan, founder of Battlefield Addiction and owner of Rebuild Recovery. For over 13 years, Art has coached hundreds of families and led hundreds of individuals from dependence to independence using a no-nonsense approach rooted in right action and accountability. What a better way to launch this series than with these two men who both believe in second chances, bold leadership, and the importance of standing for recovery, for people, for purpose, and for change. So with that, I'll turn it over to Art to lead us in tonight's conversation.
Jeez.
Wow.
But that's for the that's for the people at home. Everyone else probably knows me, but it brings tears because this part of the movement is the part for me that is really important. Getting people sober is one thing. The reason we're doing this series, Bryan, is we are trying to show a pathway for the people in this room, a creative pathway that may not be seen by the individual, that we can create and allow people to follow a pathway to success. And I think by bringing people like Bryan in, and when I met Bryan, the reason that I thought it was important to have him here, by the way, to me, this is about energy. So when I met Bryan, it was about his energy. It was about, okay, wait. You guys need to hear this guy, and you need to feel his energy, because it's not about really business. It's about energy, and that energy that he connects people with, and what he does with that. So for me, it was about letting these people meet you and turning you on this community of people that you can help create a pathway for. So,
Man.
Welcome, Bryan.
I'm so grateful to be here. Art and Angie, that was a very, very generous and kind introduction. Thank you so much. And thank you guys all for coming. I'm just thrilled to add value however I can. I'm excited to just have a conversation with you, Art.
Let's start, Bryan, let's start with, where you grew up, your story, a little bit of your backstory first,
Sure.
And then get into the business side of it and where you went.
Man, when I was 8 years old, moved up here from California, so I'm a California boy, and grew up skateboarding. My hair was blonde. What hair I have left turned brown immediately when I moved up here to Washington and the rain hit it. So, born in Fairfield, but grew up in San Diego, moved up here when I was 8. My family transferred up here because my dad was working for a company called Camping World. So if you've ever been on I-5 and you've driven past it, right there in Fife, he helped to launch that store and then became kind of a regional manager over all that. You know, I grew up absolutely obsessed with the game of baseball. I played select league baseball. I thought I'd be a baseball player in the pros at some point. And but I didn't grow any taller than I am now. I was always kind of capped out at 5'10" on a good day. But through the process of playing team sports, kind of that helped shape my philosophy, and I'll talk more about that for business later. But and this idea of team culture, and so you know, it's that's informed how I've led my business over the years. But fast forward, I never would have.
Where'd you go to high school first? Just for all the...
Yeah. So Rogers High School. Any Rogers people here?
No
Rogers in South
people?
Hill, Puyallup. Yeah, in Puyallup.
Yeah.
So grew up or went there, graduated.
What kind of kid were you in high school?
You know, what's crazy is there wasn't ever a track for entrepreneurship. I didn't even know that word until I was 22, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I had a hard time focusing in high school, to be honest with you. I'm shocked that I graduated.
Yeah.
I made it through. I did
Were
the
you
best
a
I could.
partier? Were you
No.
a square?
I was a middle of the road guy, dude. Just kind of grew up in, a Christian household and just really straight laced and just locked in and focused. You know, not much fun. You know,
What did it mean growing up in a Christian household?
Well, for me, you know, Christian values. My mom and dad just instilled, biblical truths into my world.
Okay.
And those were things that shaped my thinking, my worldview, the way that I lived my life, the choices that I made, the friends I surrounded myself with, all that kind of stuff.
Were you having to go to church every Sunday?
Yeah, we did. And I would usually be in a baseball uniform.
Okay.
Because it'd be after a game.
All right.
There was actually a church service that was Saturday nights too, so there'd be a lot of games with my select league that I would play. That would happen Saturday afternoon, sometimes double headers, and then we'd head into church at 6 p.m. So, yeah.
Yeah. Then what?
So, man, eked my way through high school. I remember my mom and dad saying, hey, we're going to have you take a stab at Pierce College, and we'll help pay for it. The problem is I didn't actually go to the classes. I instead decided I would catch some more sleep. So I'd wake up, go to college, but I would sleep in my car or rest in my car. I just was not interested in that kind of study, to be honest with you. I was a hands-on guy. Like, I learned my best when I would be touching, feeling, kind of in the thing, learning it, hands-on, breaking stuff, Yeah. And so one day I was convicted. I came home, told my mom, I said, Mom, I gotta tell you something. She said, what, is Alicia pregnant? I said, no.
Yeah.
No, I've been sleeping in my car at the Grange instead of going to college. So that's when she said, well, then you can go ahead and find your own place and you can move out. And, I was like, awesome. Tough love. And that's what my parents were always that way. And so that was a catalyst for me to kind of move on with life. I ended up, I remember this was just after I'd graduated, there was a job fair. I remember going to this job fair, and again, because all I'd ever known was playing baseball, but I ended up landing a job at Valley Bank as a bank teller. And so, like, that wasn't enough, though, to pay my rent. Mm-hmm. So I had to work a job at Best Buy.
Okay.
And I was selling TVs, and you make no commission there, but at least I kind of got the chops of connecting with people and trying to, educate them about the products we had and whatnot. Yeah. But that wasn't enough to pay my rent either. So I had to have a third job, and a buddy said, hey, there's this coffee stand. And I'm like, tell me more. And you make a lot of tips.
And what year was this?
This had to have been 2001.
Okay.
Right after I graduated.
Okay.
So there's this coffee stand. You make all these tips, and you're serving coffee. Cars just drive by and things like this. I said, okay, so where is this? And he goes, it's Cutter's Point. It's over. So in South Hill, there was a double-sided drive-through called Cutter's Point, and I went and interviewed, and they said, hired. I don't know if it was the smile or the charm and good look. I don't know. No, I'm teasing. But I got the job, and I'd never made coffee in my life. Didn't even drink coffee. I grew up in a household that never drank coffee. The only experience I had with coffee was when I'd visit my grandparents in California, and it smelled like old people and Folgers. And I was like, what is that smell? I don't know if I like that.
Yeah.
But it reminds me of my grandparents, so that was nice. But that was the only experience we had. And it was, I'll never forget the moment. All I ever drank was hot chocolates. Where's my hot chocolate lovers in the house today? Any hot chocolate lovers? Just kind of comforting and delicious, and you can get creative with this thing. You could put a little caramel in there. You put a little Irish cream, hot chocolate. You can mix a little white chocolate, regular chocolate, smooth it out. Oof. Yeah. And this one day, I had a nice English toffee hot chocolate going. And the way baristas work, you have the big old espresso machine. It looks like a spaceship, and they're making coffee and they're doing all this stuff. And I put my hot chocolate in the mix just so it could get mixed up and the milk could get added to it. They threw a couple of shots of espresso in there, and I remember when I went to drink my first sip of that hot chocolate with English toffee, like my brain started exploding. I could see the future, and I was like, whoa, things are moving. Like, that was it. That was the beginning of the end for me. It was like I was hooked. Coffee just ignited something in me. It was delicious. It was energizing. It was something that just fueled this passion that I already had for people.
Like crack or like
guilty,
like something like that. Like, you guys remember when we all felt what he felt?
Yeah.
Too bad it wasn't coffee for us. You know what I mean? I remember the same experience with heroin.
And you could see the future.
And my future was this. I was homeless in my head right there. Yeah, I remember.
I love it.
Okay.
So that was the beginning of the end for me, man. What's crazy is the way that things unfolded from there. My parents were actually going to be moving to California. They were going to become empty nesters. And it was myself who had finally moved out, and then my sister who was about 2 years away from going to college. And my parents this was the catalyst, by the way, that led us to even get into the coffee business. My parents had heard a story of a little 5-year-old girl who by the age of 5 had already been through 12 different foster homes in the area. And they were just moved with compassion and felt a calling to adopt this little girl. So they got their foster licensing. They went and brought her into their home, gave her a last name and a forever home. And they went on to foster 8 kids and adopt 4 of them. So I have 3 sisters and a brother that I've always wanted. That my parents, they've been parenting now for 40 plus years. So
did they did they just put them in the family and didn't adopt them out, just kept them with you guys, or some?
Yeah. So 8 of them that they fostered, 4 of those
stayed.
Stayed. Yep.
Yeah.
And like I said, got their last name and a
Reynolds.
forever home, which really brought a sense of security and life change to those. We call that heroic hospitality. The kind of hospitality that says, whoever you are, it doesn't matter, come on in. We just want to love you and serve you. And little did we know that would lead to our mission at Anthem Coffee someday. The catalyst for starting a coffee business was just the fact that my dad was working 80, 90-hour weeks with Camping World at the time. And because they had almost reset their parenting flow with these younger kids, my wife said, hey, man, we got to try to figure out a way to get Dad to retire sooner from Camping World and be more involved and invested in these kids' lives. And so my wife threw the idea out of, why don't we start a coffee shop? And it was the most far-fetched, bizarre thing ever. We're just your average Joes, no pun intended. We've never run a business in our lives, never done anything. I mean, I hardly went to college or high school, barely, right? But my parents, in the fact that they took a risk in fostering and adopting, that kind of gave us the vote of confidence that we could take a risk and maybe try a business. So they leveraged their house, meaning they had to use that as collateral to get a bank loan, meaning that if this business failed, we wouldn't have their house
Which
anymore.
one was the first one they started? What location?
The downtown Puyallup one. If anybody's ever been to downtown Puyallup, show of hands.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, heck yeah. So there's the farmers market down there, there's the fair, and we're just a couple blocks away from the fair.
That was your first location?
First location. I mean, family affair. Every single tile was cut and placed by my mom, my dad, my wife, myself, my brother-in-law, my sister.
You guys worked
our
it?
fam. And we worked it, apron on. I learned how to make coffee like a champion. I consumed a fair amount of it, day in and day out. But what I loved the most really was building teams of people united around a common cause, a common mission, a common purpose.
So what are the values of the, do you have them, do you have the core values? that you
Yeah,
talked
so every single person on our team, we have what we call guiding principles that help us and inform every decision that we make as a business. And so everything from an entire mission statement to the mission, which is those two words I shared with you, heroic hospitality. And then we have 12 values that they live in our hearts, they live in our website, and they are something that we revisit every single month that gives us kind of purpose, clarity, and focus as to how we do what we do day in and day out. So our mission statement, we have every single team member that we hire memorize it, commit it to memory, because your beliefs, what's in here, drives your behavior. Okay, does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So we believe that if what you memorize and what you put in your mind, it'll drive and inform the way you behave and the things that you do. Our mission statement is this: we create unique experiences that change lives and bring people back. We do this by loving and serving people, by preparing top-notch handcrafted food and beverages, and by creating an environment where real relationships are fostered. So, I'm not going to ask anybody to do something that I'm not willing to do myself. This has been committed to memory for me since the day I wrote it. This is something that I didn't write just to hold our team accountable. This is something that I wrote that holds me accountable.
So when you were first starting, did you kind of become the point man of the family?
Yes.
So you kind of led your parents in this mission, and you led your sister and everyone in this mission?
Yeah. I mean, again, it was Bill, right? I was telling Bill on the front porch, I was this 22-year-old snotty-nosed kid when we started this thing. I had no idea what I was doing. Could barely brush my teeth and do the normal things you do in the morning to get yourself ready for the day. But my parents saw something in me, this passion. I had a vision all of a sudden that was ignited to do what this mission statement said. There was this passion, there was this pursuit that was a worthwhile endeavor. And my parents, took a lot of risk on me to lead this charge. Again, no formal leadership training, no business training, no nothing. All I knew was how to connect and relate with people. My mom instilled this idea in me to what care means. And she said, look, just connect and relate with everyone. Mm-hmm. C-A-R-E, connect and relate with everyone. I was like, I could do that. And I really honed those skills when I was a bank teller as my first job. The Puyallup Valley Bank, I made the most mundane job of cashing checks and handing people money and taking deposits in. I made it super fun and experiential. Like, I realized that was kind of how I was wired, was to connect and relate with everyone, young, old, everyone in between. Yeah. And what happened is people would end up, how many of you have been to a bank before? The most boring environment ever. And you're standing in line, but somehow I was able to connect with people to where they would say, you go ahead. I'm going to wait for Bryan's line. Because I took the time to get to know somebody's name and to learn about their life and where they were heading that week, and and then I'd follow up the week after. So it was in that environment I honed the skills that I didn't know would later lead to success in the coffee business. Because the funny thing is, the same people who were depositing money and cashing checks happened to come up to the counter one day and see a different counter and me in an apron and go, wait a second, you're like, wait a second. Yeah. I go, I'll take your money, and here's your coffee. So
how quickly, after you got with Anthem, how quickly did it start moving and shaking? And when did you come out from behind the counter? And
I love this question. All right. Yeah. Can I rewind it a tad?
Yeah.
So we've been in the coffee business for 18 years. The first 5 years, we were part of a franchise. And so a franchise is a business that has systems, processes, a brand, a recognizable brand that you can you can buy that business in a box, if you will.
And what was that?
And run it. So it was called Forza Coffee Company.
Okay.
And so we had heard about Forza Coffee Company. There was maybe 6, 7, or 8 stores at the time. And we were the 10th store to buy into the franchise. So that was really what we did as a family. And I wouldn't change a thing. I'm so glad that we got to kind of cut our teeth on business by buying into something, having the support of the franchisors. I was a franchisee, So the franchisor is the one who created the franchise.
Yeah.
And so having that support helped us to, kind of learn business. However, we outgrew the need for a franchisor within the first 6 months, I would say. And we were the number one store for the entire 5 years that we were part of that franchise. And they would look to us, and they'd bring other interested franchisees to see our operation. We were very creative. We were innovative. We were energetic. We'd be throwing cups of coffee, empty cups, over our heads to one another. We would shout across the room. It really felt, and we tried to, this was on purpose, by the way. You can do things by default, or you can do things by design. And this was all by design. The way we crafted our coffee shop flow and business was by emulating experiences elsewhere that we had seen, things that we loved and enjoyed. For instance, the Pike Place Market. They're throwing fish around, you guys. How interesting is that? And so we thought, okay, we could kind of do that too. And I remember there was a point, if you've seen our logo, maybe it was up there a moment ago. The Anthem logo has a megaphone, like a bullhorn. It amplifies sound. Our tagline is live loud, love louder. And so really our hope at Anthem is that when you drink Anthem coffee, you'll be inspired to live loud, to love louder, because that's the most important thing. But really Anthem, check this out, it's synonymous with like, what's your passion? What's your purpose? What's your anthem? That's the question we want to inspire in people that visit our place. And so we took a page out of that playbook of Pike Place Market and said, man, we want to incorporate this into our experience.
Yeah.
And then one day I grabbed a megaphone and started taking orders with it, guys. 6 a.m., call on the line. You, sir, in the back, what you drinking? And then I would holler at the young lady back here, what do you care for? What can I make you? And it was startling to everybody at first, but then they all kind of broke down and laughed. These are young professionals trying to catch the train. These are high school students with backpacks on and headphones on.
Now let me stop you right
Yes,
there, because I talk a lot about what wakes us up at night. So I want to how did you get rid of, okay, so let's say there's people in this program that your life is kind of living in the past.
Yeah.
Or your life is kind of stuck.
Yeah.
And because it's stuck, you're having this repetitive Groundhog Day experience in the world where you're kind of mad at people, or you're resentful in your relationships, or you're worried about the way you look, and you're worried about just survival. So how did you stay free enough from resentment, or is that just something that came natural to you? And I always say the best way to wake up to be what is the best thing that can wake us up, and it's ideas. So I imagine you're a guy that's woke up in the middle of the night, not by regret of what happened, not by worry about what could happen, but ideas about what you can create. Is that accurate?
It's so accurate, and I resonate on so many levels with that struggle as well, because there was a point where in the business I personally tried to become all things to all people, to please them, appease them, and I felt like Gumby, just completely stretched thin, and you can't live that way. And so my struggle was really trying to people please. I also knew that there was a lot on the line. My parents had leveraged their house. I go back to that thought again. That's not sound business advice, by the way.
Yeah.
Don't do that. But there was that pressure that I felt, and I remember times within even just having one store and 20 employees or so, that things weren't going well, and I would walk in and feel that this place, wasn't living up to the mission or the expectations that I had. And I happened to listen to this podcast that made this startling statement that wrecked me to the core. And it said this: it said, if you don't like the culture of your company, or the culture of your family, or the culture of just whatever, or whatever's happening in your life, you're the problem, but you're also the solution.
Yeah.
So that I was like, wait a second. And it seemed like when he said on the podcast, you're the problem, it was like, you're the problem. It echoed. I was like, but you're also the solution. That's the good news. I was like, whoa. And for me, I felt like it was this, So, okay, I don't like what's happening in my business right now, but I can change it.
Yeah.
And I can influence it, and I can shift the energy, and I can coach the bad behavior, if you will, or those that are not, raising up to the level of our mission requires, right?
So we talk a lot about in this room. I talk a lot about with these guys about being responsible for the relationships in your life.
So good.
To feel the power of being able to make an impact in that space between you and whoever it is, and what we bring to that space, and the responsibility for that space to stay clear, positive, connected, right? And that's how many hard conversations did you have with employees and things that you had to do to kind of landscape the energy of your and culture of your company?
Well, Art, I didn't want to have those crunchy conversations. They were uncomfortable. So I didn't. And that's why the culture got so bad. That's why the environment got so bad. That's why the energy in the cafe, when I would walk in or I would watch customers.
Resentments and people fighting amongst
yes,
each other.
frustrated because no one's listening, and the manager, the owner isn't leading
Paying
well.
attention.
And I didn't know how to lead. It's like, holy cow. Who's the hardest person in the world to lead? Somebody. Your spouse. No, I'm just kidding. Yourself. Who said yourself?
Yeah.
Smart. I want you to take that to heart, that the hardest, the most challenging person in the world to lead is yourself. But if you can lead yourself well, if you can, you hear me too, because what you're talking about is ownership of the relationships in your life. You have to also take ownership of kind of your relationship with yourself too. Mm-hmm. That your beliefs, again, I'll go back to that, your habits, behaviors, mindset, all of that stuff. This is what battlefield. This is what we're doing out here. It is a battlefield of the mind. And every day is a fight. Doesn't matter what the fight is. Everyone's got a fight in this room. No one's exempt from that. And until we're able to develop muscles, or if we can put ourselves and humble ourselves and put ourselves in a position where there's accountability, and we allow. The truth is we're all only as accountable as we want to be. But the more accountable you are, and that's not a sexy word whatsoever. Nobody wants to be accountable. But to be accountable, that's where health, that's where life, that's where passion comes alive. Boundaries lead to balance in life. So boundaries are accountability. And you guys are absolutely, every one of you that gets to interact with Art, with Angie, with the whole team at Battlefield, are so fortunate to have them speaking into your lives, because I think radical change is on the horizon for you if you practice. And
when did you recognize in yourself the impact that you had? Meaning, if you didn't watch your own energy and hold yourself accountable, the damage that you could do to others around you.
Yeah.
Was there a point where you went, I gotta grow up, man? Like, if I'm yelling at people or not handling my anger, or I'm really impactful that way.
You're pulling out the best stuff in me, Art. Thank you for this. No, I'm telling you, this question is so real because, again, knowing all that was riding on the success, like this business had to be successful. And again, I had no training on how to lead well, so I led with kind of an unbridled passion. And there'd be times, my expectation was that as a customer would come to the door, that a team member would greet the customer immediately.
Yeah.
And so, and it should be like this welcoming environment. I mean, here's the deal. If you're hosting a party, do you wait for that guest that comes to your house to walk into your house and find you in the kitchen busy? Or the host is usually, welcome in, let me take your jacket. Like, what can I make you, kind of deal, right? So I went to the wall for the wrong things. I remember a mentor sharing this idea of you only have one chance to make a great first impression. And so that was the mission. Belief. That belief drove my behavior. So knowing that I had one chance to make a great first impression on people, because that would lead to success, that meant that I was chirping in team members' ears. I was barking. Why didn't you greet? Why didn't you greet that person? I need you got to pay attention. And I was so intense about it. I drove people away. I beat people down with words, not even knowing it, thinking that I was driven by the right thing.
You were right.
Wrong execution, right? So a mentor pulled me aside one day. Again, I am a happy guy. Like, this is me all the time. Apron on, coffee in hand, usually, the whole deal. This guy who's just a fixture in my life at the coffee shop, he pulls me aside. He goes, Bryan, no one on your team likes you. So how's your day been? He goes, I'm just watching their demeanor and their behavior, like the way that they're just, and I've heard it. I've seen you interact with it. And that's what ultimately led to me being turned on to this podcast that said, look, if you don't like the way things are going, if you don't like your culture, if it's not working the way you hoped it would, you're the problem, but you're also the solution. So I had to set out immediately at that point to become a lifelong learner and somebody who was like, dude, I became so hungry and I pursued just knowledge and business and leadership and began to surround myself with those that could speak into the weak parts of my life.
When I want to go back to these difficult conversations that you had to have with people, because a lot of what we're trying to do here and a lot of what I try to teach you guys and we talk about in this room is speaking truth to power and speaking and being powerful in our relationships. So one of the things that I want that I kind of encourage is that when you start this process, it's okay. There's kind of two things here. What I'm teaching these guys is that you can either be a nice person or you can be an honest person. And sometimes when we've been living our life the way we've been living as a fake person, or as a person who hasn't been in relationships for years and been out in the streets or whatever we've been doing, and now you start entering in the world, as he's entered into business or whatever, he had at some point, Bryan had to determine whether to be an honest person or a nice person. And as you can tell, for sure, he had to tell the truth because the business depended upon it. So if he had an employee that wasn't up to snuff, he had to be truthful with that person. And I'm sure, and what you did, I'm sure, was care more about the honesty at some point than being a good person, and then start cultivating to try to be both. At some point, working on being both honest and good, so that when your honesty hit, it didn't hurt or it didn't accuse, it nurtured or helped the relationship. Correct?
Big time, yeah. Oh my gosh, so many people just flooded through my mind as you were sharing that. Those that, because like I said, I was a people pleaser. I was trying to be all things, all people. And so I was a peacekeeper and not a peacemaker. And there's a big difference because if you don't address the issue head on, mm-hmm. it's unkind.
Yeah.
It's unkind for me to be unclear towards you and to beat around the bush, Art, if you're not pulling your weight as part of our team.
You're not giving them a chance.
Right? If it's okay. Or, I'm basically enabling you to continue on in the ways that you might be a new hire, somebody who is carrying baggage from another job or something, and we train you, but then you begin to kind of teeter off. Not cool for me to just let that happen.
Right.
What's kind is for me to be honest with him and coach him and tell him the truth and how what he's doing is affecting the rest of the team, and basically just laying it out. Mm-hmm. And so there is a nice way. It's taken me years of refining how to actually have crunchy conversations, is what I call them, to where there's an outcome that's a win-win for everybody. Mm-hmm. And sometimes the win for the other person is actually another job where they're going to excel and be able to work with their skill set in another,
And I don't
example.
imagine it any more time in your life now. People are saying that work for you. I don't like Bryan anymore.
Oh, there's plenty out there, I'm sure.
No, but your staff and the people you work for now.
Yeah.
No,
for sure.
Inside, they're in love with you now, and you're the leader, right? I mean, you've achieved that.
Yeah.
And I wanna like really stress upon what he had to go through in his own growth to be able to have in his life. Because what happens is when you have a bunch of people that you're leading, and all of you're leaders, you'll have a family to lead, or you'll have a team to lead, or whatever it is that you have to lead. And what happens in his mind was a complaint would show up about someone in his life. And he could have either used that complaint as his own superiority to say, that person don't cut the mustard, I got to get rid of him or get him out of my life. Or you have that complaint show up like an opportunity for him. Right?
Yeah.
And what he had to learn and he had to master was he had to have complaints show up and have those complaints show up like an opportunity for him. It was an opportunity for him to coach in that space.
Yes.
It was an opportunity for you to make somebody better in that space. Man. It was an opportunity to be honest with someone and see what that would do to the relationship. Not an opportunity to build up a case against somebody and then fire them. It was, no, I wanna have this person in my life even if they're not in this job, or even if they're moving on. Yeah. And so this is the skill that we're trying to master here in our life and in our relationships, is to have complaints show up about the people in our life and then see that person about that complaint. I have a complaint about you. And I was working with somebody this weekend, and I said, when you have a complaint, does it sound like this? I have a complaint about you, therefore I must come see you right now. Is it that? Or is it, I have a complaint about you, therefore I must go talk about to other people about you? Which one is it? You see? And if we're not practicing this, I have a complaint about you, therefore we need to talk. You and I. We got to work this shit out because I have a complaint about you. Then we build cases against people. And what he talked about was the culture in his company. What the culture was he had a bunch of complaints about a bunch of behavior.
Yep.
And he hadn't trimmed the bushes or the shrubs, and now he's in his own yard and it's overgrown.
So good.
And this is what we're trying to say. And you had to learn this and practice this. And I already know, without even knowing you had to do this. So and to get to the point where we can tell our environment the truth and have it sing. And look out there in the landscape of it and going, look at that.
Yes.
Look at that.
Wow.
You see, that's power.
Man.
And that's what you've had to learn. So.
Well, and imagine that for each one of our own lives. Like, when was the last time you looked in the mirror, looked at yourself and kind of said, man, there's a couple areas here that we got to address. There's some things or truths that, or things that I'm believing about myself that really aren't true.
And I want to point out that he keeps going back to his own accountability first. Because he keeps going back to, well, what if I'm behaving poorly? No. Then I go approach this person about their behavior, and they go, but Bryan, you...
Well, I'll tell you, for 13 years, there's a table. You can see where my elbows have grooved into the table at the Puyallup Anthem. No joke, every Thursday, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m., for the past 13 years, I meet with a dear friend of mine named Roger Stanton. He's a national director of Celebrate Recovery. And he and I almost lost my marriage, truthfully, just with the stress and the way that I put the business first. The business really became my mistress, if you will. Like, it robbed so much from my family. It just took so much from me, and it led to other destructive behaviors and thoughts and things in my world that, this guy entered my life, and we developed this framework where we basically, it's 5 fingers. It's this. We go, how's your soul? We ask that question to one another. We share. How's your self? Like, how are you? What are you doing to take care? Are you sleeping? Are you eating well? Are you working out? How's the relationships that matter most in your life? How are those? How's your relationship with your wife, your kids, your best friends? Is there anybody that you need to apologize to or make amends with? How's your job? Are you leaning in at work? Are you kind of leaning and doing nothing? Like, are you applying yourself? Are you using new skills? Are you growing? And then how's your finances? Like, where are you spending your money? What are you doing with that? Are you giving? Are you, all those things. And so this framework is almost like a mirror that we hold up to one another. We just share and we sharpen one another. And it's in those moments that have, again, accountability. It is not something that people are flocking to, but we need it more now than ever before in this day and age. And what accountability is just, it helps to put guardrails and give boundaries to your life so that you can thrive, so that there can be harmony and balance and growth. So, every week we're confronted with this. I know I'm going to see him Thursday. How am I doing in these areas, right? So I'm checking on that on myself day in, day out. It's very helpful.
So how do you stay, let's say, free in your mind and creative? And this for you, this is the other thing we talk about, this idea that when we get sober, we have to get the good stuff that's inside of us out to the world.
Yeah.
And I want you to, if you ever walk into Bryan's coffee shops from now on, I bet you won't be able to walk into them without feeling Bryan's energy. You just won't. Like you'll feel, you'll feel it in the staff that knows him. You'll feel it in everyone, And so this idea of self-expression and your new ideas, you got so kind of clear up how you went from one. First of all, I want to ask you, how did you get out of the franchise? I thought they screwed you once you got into those things.
A lot of times you will sign what's called a non-compete, which means, you bought into this franchise, you can't compete for X amount of years in the same industry. And, there wasn't that. We didn't sign any kind of non-compete. So we fulfilled our 5 years honorably.
Yeah.
I remember it was October 31st of 2011. And so Halloween, and that was the last night we were at Forza Coffee. Then we stayed up all night and we, did some remodeling on the interior all night long to anthemize the space and make it feel like an anthem. And November 1st of 2011, we became Anthem. In 2 locations, mind you, underfunded, under-resourced, understaffed, under-marketed. Here's what I mean by that. For the 3 months prior to the rebrand, we had a second coffee shop kind of secretly in the works at the Tacoma, the History Museum in Tacoma. That was where kind of Anthem was birthed. We found a bunch of reclaimed materials and we started to build out what this place would feel like, because the franchise was like this Italian themed coffee shop, rich mahogany and all that jazz. What we were kind of shifting to was this rustic, reclaimed kind of, as Anthem today.
Yeah.
So we had formulated that there and did the 72-hour extreme home makeover renovation on the Puyallup location. And everybody in the community was in upheaval. They're going, what in the world happened to our beloved coffee shop? And it took like all of November for people to realize, hey, it's the same people. And, it's still owned by the same group. It is still the same baristas. And you got to check it out. They have another location out in Tacoma. But out of the gate, my parents thought this was the worst decision we ever made, ever.
To switch over.
Oh boy. I'll tell you, leading up to Thanksgiving meal, I didn't know if we were going to have a Thanksgiving that year. But the tide turned, and it turned because I was behind the counter, sharing the story, telling the narrative. And how word of mouth is the best form of advertisement, always has been, always will be. But the more I would share the story, the more the story spread, and the more it made sense.
And when you say share the story, heroic hospitality.
No, share the story. Hey, we're the same people. We just, our contract ended, and now we're Anthem. And so what's your anthem? What's your anthem?
Yeah.
What's your anthem? What's your passion? What's your purpose in life? Have you figured it? I want to help you discover your anthem at Anthem.
Right.
That's the idea.
Right.
So
now in your life with your how big is your family and how many kids you got?
So I just this past weekend celebrated 21 years married to my junior high sweetheart, who I was 14. She was 13 when I saw her across the church sanctuary, and it was done. I was like, Mom, who's that? They gotta be
Okay.
her.
A quick, and then I'm going to get into something else, but a quick, where are you at with Washington State government, kind of the policies of Washington State? Are they hurting your business, helping your business? Is it easier to do business at your Anthem location in Arizona? And what cities do you find it more or less more difficult or more easy?
The jury's still out. Business is, it was very tough and interesting here over the last several years.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that. And trying to figure out, is it easier to do business in Arizona? We have 2 locations there. Is it easy? We have 6 here. There's a lot of nuance to that, but Yeah, I'm not sure how to answer that exactly, Aaron,
Yeah.
to be honest.
So you started out, you said you were a people pleaser.
Yep.
And how do you think, what was the main kind of way that you, because we have a lot of people that are people pleasers come into our program as people pleasers.
Wow.
How does a guy go from someone who's a people pleaser to someone who's a truth teller?
That's a great question.
I mean, where did you find the balls?
Yeah.
You know,
Well, I'm
because a lot of people don't make that transition in their life.
I think, I burnt out, frankly, being all things to all people, always trying to satisfy everyone. There was a time I remember, and this is like, guy walks in, orders a sandwich. You got any pickles to go with that sandwich? I go, not yet. And I ran to Safeway and I grabbed like 4 different types of pickles and ran. Like, this is how serious it was. Like, I exhausted myself. So I hit burnout, which burnout is, it's prolonged abnormal stress that affects your psyche, your spiritual, physical, mental state. And so that's what happened. I was just giving nonstop, and almost to all the wrong things. Like, I was giving the best I had to offer to total strangers, leaving nothing for my wife or my family at home. I have 3 boys, by the way, 19, 15, and 13 years old. But,
Is that it?
That's
Just
it.
boys? Okay.
Yep, 3 boys. So the people-pleasing tendencies, like, I had to, when I burnt out, I took 40 days off from work. I had to kind of reset and re-energize. And my wife said, go do something that actually fills your tank. Go do something that adventurous. Like, for so long, I was just this human doing, and not a human being, not living. I didn't even know what I was passionate about anymore. Really lost myself in this business. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
And so when I went away, you talk about dreams and being woken up in the middle of the night, or writing things down. I got a fresh vision for how I would do things different. And really, that's when the mission, vision, values of what Anthem has today, that's when they were born. I mean, I remember waking up going, man, when I come back, I got to do things different. So I began to write these things down. And I looked at like what led to our success in the first 5-6 years of business. And I jotted those things down, but I really felt inspired, like, this is how I'm going to do it different when I come back.
I want to point out a few things here now, because this is a lot about what he's a prime example of. The main thing that we're not recognizing here that prompts growth, that makes growth mandatory. And some of you may go, well, I mean, really makes growth mandatory. And what it is that makes growth mandatory is commitment. And the problem with Bryan, the predicament that he was in, was he had this business that had to survive, and he had no choice but to be committed to it. So there was a pressure that was behind him, and there was a mirror that was in front of him. And in the middle was ultimate responsibility. There was no one to blame. So what he did was he put himself in a situation where this was pressurizing him.
Yep.
The results were his. He didn't have anyone to blame about those results.
Win or lose.
Win or lose. It was all him. And then you put yourself in this incubator of growth, because in order to get the results, he knew and he believed ultimately that it was him that had to change. So you saw that is the formula. If you want to grow in your life, you commit to a relationship. You commit to the relationship and you let it push you like it's pushing you into a fire. And there's the relationship. You let commitment push you, and then you take 100% responsibility. And if you have that formula of 100% responsibility to your job, your boyfriend, your wife, your family, whatever it is, if you say, I'm going to commit 100% and then I'm going to take responsibility, you've left yourself no choice but growth. You've left yourself no choice but a brutal mirror to look at, a brutal mirror to feel. And see, that's, maybe he didn't know it at the time, but this has produced a human. This has produced values and truth and kindness. And we all know this just by sitting here with Bryan. But it produced what it had to, it did what it did. And I think that's part of the problems with people in early recovery or people going through this process is you don't commit to anything. Everything's a wait and see. I'm going to do this. I'm going to get this job. See, he committed to the bank. He committed to everything he's done. He didn't go to the bank and say, I'm going to see how much they pay me and see if I'll be funny Bryan today or bullshit Bryan or no. He said, I'm going to commit to this job as a teller. And that's the thing. Commitment and values, once he's done that, he can't not grow because he has that value of responsibility. He has that commitment, and then you're just pressurized. And I see right now, I see too many people not committing to what they're doing, whether it's committing to a program, a boyfriend or girlfriend, a wife, a job, whatever, but there's commitment here. That's what people miss, you see, that you couldn't not, where were you going to go? You going to quit and complain about it? And then what? Go tell everybody it wasn't your fault? Well, who was going to buy that? Hey, Anthem went under. It's not my fault. And he was going to try to look good? You see? Our relationships fail, and we seem to have a story about how it's not our fault all the time. How it's somebody else. What does that story get you? You know, the Atlanta Falcons, they were up 28-3 in the Super Bowl with the Patriots. And they all got a story, but guess what? They lost. That's it. If you're an Atlanta Falcon that played in the Super Bowl against the Patriots, you're a loser. You lost. You can't look good. So if your relationship fails, there's no looking good. If your job fails, there's no looking good. But people try to fail and still look good because they lack commitment. And see, that's the difference when you commit to something like the way that he had to do this. He could have easily said, no, you know what happened was the taxes got too high in Washington State and the government started screwing me and Anthem went under. Some shit like that.
Yeah.
You can make that up.
Yeah. Well, remember what I said at the beginning, you know, you're the problem, but you're also the solution.
That's right.
Like, that's that stark reality where, man, I lost my train of thought, but Art, I love where you landed there.
Well, for me, it's. I don't think that Bryan, because we're sitting in this room and we're talking about those things, but we don't have real life examples of the people that are doing it.
Yeah.
And for me to be able to go, what I'm trying to teach you guys right here, he did without knowing he was doing it. He did it without even knowing he was doing it, and it produced the thing. And there was no, you didn't know it, but you were trapped in it.
Totally trapped.
By commitment.
Here's what helped me out of that, though. This is the thought just came back to me. So it was getting a fresh vision. In that burnout season, I was able to kind of go and just kind of like look around and think about what did I want my preferred future to look like when I came back. And again, this is,
You know, I want to stop you right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this is another space I try to say. When we have a dilemma in our life, when we have an overwhelm, when we have a breakdown, when you went to that space,
Yep.
was it you and somebody you were blaming? Or was it you, God, and strategy? Who was there?
Yeah, I mean, me and God, I felt like God was distant, but it was me, God, and strategy. I mean, it was me going like...
There wasn't you and blame. There
I
wasn't
didn't,
you
no,
and who's
no,
at
no,
fault.
no,
Okay.
none of that. It was literally like, I mean, I was so fizzled out, bro. Like, I remember answering the phone at the coffee shop and hearing the sound on the other end of it, like the Charlie Brown, wah, 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 wah. Like, that was, I was like, I melted down. I was burnt out, exhausted. And I just, I remember this long drive and just this time of decompression. I drove to Bend, Oregon, and I brought my mountain bike, and I thought, I'm gonna explore, I'm gonna mountain bike, I'm gonna cruise, I'm gonna just get fresh vision. That was really the intent.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, one of the great biblical truths is without vision, people perish. Okay? When there's no vision, I mean, literally, you die. It's kind of what it's saying.
Mm-hmm.
And so I took that with me and really wrestled with that because I had lost vision. I had lost my passion. I had lost myself in this whole business thing that was supposed to be about heroic hospitality and serving and giving and creating this cool community of people, you know, and serving. So in that moment, there was a fresh vision that came over me. And I mean, now it's been 13 years removed from that burnout experience.
Have
And
you burnt out again since?
not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all,
Yeah.
because the vision's in front of me, which means when I would go and make decisions, I would make them based off of, right, people pleasing.
Yeah.
All things, all people. Now I have this set of, listen here, it's important. I have this set of guiding principles for my business that whenever I have to make a decision, I just drop it in the top. It spits out an answer very clearly. Because in a sober-minded moment, while I was away, getting fresh vision, I wrote down how we were going to do what we do today. Now, I also have guiding principles for my own life as well. And I revisit those every week when I meet with my bud. I revisit the guiding principles for our business weekly with our team. And again, these are the things that inform how we do, what we do, who we hire, where we go, where we add stores, what products we carry,
So this is
on.
what he did was, and many of us, this is the problem, many of us, that story would be, then I went and drank. Then I went and used drugs. Then I took my life and blew it up and went off the rails. But he did what's called a second step. So he admitted that he was powerless and his life's unmanageable, basically is what he said in that moment. I'm burning out, I'm powerless, my life's unmanageable. And then he said, we came to believe in a power greater than ourselves to restore us to sanity. And he went and did a proper second step, and there's where power lies. There's where we start to find power, because what he did was he went to a place that was him and him. And that's what you're doing here. In this program, in this recalibration of your life, this is exactly what you should be doing. You should be getting a set of guiding values that you're gonna run your life through. You should be seeing about what you did wrong and what you need to do differently, and you should be getting that vision for your life. And this is a place of power that you start building the power in your life. And what he did, and I knew it. I didn't have to ask him if he burned out since. I didn't. Because people that when we burn out, there is no vision, but there's no power.
You're right.
So he got powerless, and powerless because of the complaints that showed up, the bad energy that showed up that he allowed, and he went to this place that's him and him. And that's what I'm talking about, man. That's what I'm saying to you guys. There is this cool place as a man or a woman when your life breaks down to shit. When it breaks down to nothing, it is the most beautiful place on this earth when it breaks down to nothing. Give me it again, I'll take it. Because it's me, and maybe me and God, and it's me, God, and strategy. And that's what's sitting there with me. And there's none of you. You are just like, it's not your fault. It's what I need to do differently and how I'm going to come back with a powerful plan of attack and how God is going to make it okay. And that's it. And that's what you did. And so all this stuff, just watching it, I can just sit here and see exactly what happened in his life through what we're all going through here and what we're trying to learn here. It's beautiful. So yeah, I mean, just somebody that their life's breaking down and they go, I'm going to go get away for 40 days. I'm going to take a breather and I'm going to go get responsible.
Yeah.
That's what you did. You went and got responsible because you probably weren't very responsible before you went.
No. That was a coming of age moment for me, if you will. You know, I mean, again, if you don't like what's going on in your life, you have to recognize it first. Okay? I recognized it. Then I owned it. My fault.
Yeah.
But I can change it, right? And that was the next thing. And boy, I will say this, every day now feels like day one. Every day literally feels like day one, even though we're 18 years in business. I wake up excited, energized, charged up, passion. I mean, I'm excited to invest in and grow and
like
educate and coach our team and touch lives in the community, whatever it takes. It's like, I'm just, man.
And you feel
Grateful.
that same energy now with your boys, with your family, with everyone?
It's the most fun season ever. My boys love each other. We are obsessed with pickleball right now. They text me, Dad, when you be home, we're going to play some pickleball.
By the way, I think the happiest people in America right now are playing pickleball.
They are. It's a fact. That's
All you have to do is see somebody playing pickleball and you go,
I already measured it out. I walked it out.
You did?
The grass patch is perfect.
We talked
Yes.
about it last. Did you already tell him this?
No.
Oh, we seriously talked about this last year.
You should.
And getting it out there.
It's so fun, and you play doubles.
We
You
need-
play two at a time
we need a
because
fundraiser
it's
to
too exhausting to
pull
play
that off.
singles and run across the court so much.
But we kind of have similar problems.
Yeah. Oh, buddy.
Okay.
you can tell. I'm still working on that area.
Me and Max, we play pickleball. I'm good till it's 3-3. And then I'm out of energy.
Like,
so how are you? Yeah, and then I'm calling timeout. And then all of a sudden it's 15-3.
The only way I can do it is I play doubles.
Okay.
I cannot play one-on-one yet.
Okay.
I'm working my way up to
All
that.
right. Yeah, by the way, when we started this thing today, it was quiet, it was just me and him, and I said, Bryan, I just want you to know that your wife has asked me to talk to you tonight.
Oh, you got
This
me.
whole thing is an intervention. And I didn't know what we were interventioning on, but I was saying it must,
That's funny.
I'm sure you have the same kind of food stuff that I got, maybe.
I am obsessed with tacos and teriyaki.
Tacos and teriyaki.
Love them.
What about sweets?
And gummy bears. Fine. Call me out. The sour ones, the fruity ones, I'll have them all.
Yeah. So, okay. What's next in the what can we see for the Bryan Reynolds future? Besides the Anthem coffee that he's going to do with our program in Kent and all that. You got it on record. No, I'm kidding.
Man, right now it's there's different seasons that have come and gone. Growth seasons. Then there's been seasons where we've had to prune, cut back some stores.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're in a season of.
They have 8 stores, by the way. 8 shops.
At one point we had 10. We hit the double-digit mark, but COVID took a couple of them. Just had to close them up. Again, so season of growth, season of pruning. I think when you prune, that prepares you for more. Mm-hmm. More isn't the goal, but I think it's better. Like it's kind of what I'm leaning into right now. It's how do we just steward what we have? How do we get better? How do we refine? How do we simplify? How do we minimize waste, maximize profit? So that we
has
can
hiring become difficult?
Oh, it's no, but it's interesting how through COVID, it really feels like 2020 just finished like last year. It feels like that was all just one long year.
Yeah.
The last 4 years.
Yeah.
As a business owner, for me personally.
Yeah.
And out of that, it was so challenging. We were in survival mode nonstop because team members didn't want to show up to the shifts. It was hit and miss who would be up for working and not working. It was just a different climate at that moment.
Yeah.
And we shifted how we led our business. It's one of these moments where it's like, man, I don't like the way this business is looking right now. This was like kind of the second time.
Did you ever bring in plexiglass?
Yeah.
I always thought that the plexiglass salesman was the best thing. COVID was the best thing to ever happen to the plexiglass
Good
salesman.
time to be in plexiglass.
Yeah.
If you're in that season.
Yeah.
But man, it was through that
That was the worst.
We just led differently. We actually abandoned a lot of ways, looking back, some of our guiding principles, unfortunately, because we were desperate for people to show up, for things to happen. There are many, many times I get phone calls from friends going, hey, I'm at your shop and no one's here. I'm like, I wake up the first kid that's closest, we're going to go run this thing. My little 8-year-old, hey, what can I get you? I'm like, push that one and then I'll be over here making the coffee. And so, there was this, it was frantic. It was exhausting. It was survival.
Yeah.
And we're just coming out of survival mode.
Okay.
So
I got one. I got another.
Yeah.
In here we talk a lot about what people say about us, what people think about us. And I like to say that I care deeply what people think about me. A lot of people say they don't care. In my opinion, I care deeply what people think about me.
Yeah.
It is my business.
Yeah.
I want people to think highly of me.
Yep.
I want people to. But in this climate in Seattle, what's the craziest or worst thing that's ever been said about you that hurt, that you didn't like? Is anything come up or?
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, I had people want to take my life. Not joking.
For what?
Let me back up. I felt compelled to when the the Seattle PD had their precinct taken over at that one point. Drove up with some buds with a cold brew van and some cookies, just to love on the cops and bring them some stuff. And they said, you know, they said, look out for this guy. You know, we want to not have him exist anymore. So, and it
Did
kinda
the
spread.
cop, did the van have Anthem on it, and then they found who you were and come
Yeah, I
after
mean,
you?
they did some research on it and yeah, traced it back.
You
So
try to attack your family for feeding the cops.
yeah,
Yeah. Wow.
so
Yeah, that
hurt.
That's exactly the kind of stuff I'm talking about. Yeah. Yeah. Standing up for what you think's right and being taken down.
yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm proud of you did that. That's pretty cool. You know.
Just wanted to love on some people.
Yeah. We stand for the cops here too. So. Okay. Well, let's see. What else? What's the future for the boys?
I think they're going to be athletes, unlike
And you've evaded all drug use with your kids?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
And how do you think you did that? As a parent, how do you
I
think
think
you
educating, just talking about it, and not like going, these are the things that are going to come up in your education and as you're around friends. And we just never shied away from hard topics. We have this saying that we run to potential problems to maintain unity as a team. So as a team family, as a team business, as a team marriage, we run to potential problems. And so anything that we would see that could be a potential problem in the way, we would talk about it, discuss it, and share biblical truths on how we thought it should be dealt with.
And you still make your boys go to church?
Oh, yeah.
Or do they go on their own?
Are they go on their own? Yeah.
Okay, you don't have to make them?
No. They just chose to get baptized. I got to baptize them 3 weeks ago, so pretty awesome.
Wow.
The week before Easter.
And what
so.
church do you go to?
Motion Church.
Motion
Yeah.
Church. Anyone else go to there?
That's a good one.
Is it? Huh. Okay.
Yep.
As a father now, what is... Let me ask you this, because I'm a new father.
Congrats, dude.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
So one of my questions that I keep wanting answered is, I'm looking at this little Etch-a-Sketch machine, right?
Yes.
And it's blank, but it's getting some squiggles.
He's 8 weeks old.
So my question is, and this is open, and then we'll do questions for Bryan.
Yeah,
from the
yeah.
house. How much of what you put in, would you say the equation is with your oldest boy, how much of him is what you gave him, and how much of it is someplace you don't even know where it came from? What's the percentage?
I was just reflecting with my wife for the weekend, and I was praising her for all that she's invested in our son.
Yeah.
And, so I
So
don't,
maybe 30, how much her, how much?
oh, her, the majority,
Yeah.
but there's, what I'm getting at is I was just appreciating all that she had invested in our boys over the years. I was very distant when I was in the early years of running our business.
Okay.
It demanded so much from me. And like I mentioned, my family, my kiddos, my wife got kind of the leftovers each day until I realized, I loved the feeling of winning, but the only place I knew how to win was at work. I just knew, if I was at work, I could rearrange the environment and boom, I feel like I'm winning. I could make a change over here and I'm winning. I didn't know how to win at home. And until I figured out how to win at home, winning at home made winning at work worth it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
And so I found out that, winning at home was, honey, how can I lighten your load? My wife, how can I serve you best? Just do the dishes. Her answer was this though: look around, just look around and fix the couch, do that, boom, 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 and it's like,
this is terrible news.
hey, I'm just trying to share what I've learned, bro.
You're
That's all.
telling me that I'm going to be doing more dishes?
Look, man,
What are you saying here, Bryan?
I've learned to love dishes and folding clothes.
Isn't there
and
another
vacuuming.
way to win?
That's it, Art. You got to do it.
That way to win seems like it sucks, bro.
And more so than that, I would say, honestly, is because I can see your passion for battlefield addiction and all the work that you're doing, is just to be present where your feet are planted. Just when you're home, be home.
I can do that.
I had to literally, because there was a point where I'd be home, but I'd be on my phone. Ideas
Oh, yeah.
coming. Ideas.
Yeah.
And I had to literally watch off, phone in the glove compartment,
Yeah.
And like, okay, I'm on my driveway.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna walk in the house. Then I'm gonna look for things to do. And I'm gonna connect. And I had to, like, that was my mindset. I had to
Yeah.
shift that.
Yeah.
Because I wanted
Have you
to,
had to struggle with your boys and their addiction to their phones?
not so much, no.
They're pretty good.
We haven't enabled internet on our two youngest. So, I mean, they're able to, when we allow them, they're able to chase some Pokemon, kind of get some Pokemons going.
Yeah.
And then YouTube and stuff. But there's a healthy balance of usage, I'd say. And I'm grateful for that.
When you're having family night, you say, "Put it away, guys," or you don't.
You know,
have to.
that's the thing. It's like we don't necessarily designate it. There was a good rhythm in our life for a while where every Monday night was a family night thing. We'd, connect to do devos. But right now it's like, every night we just we either go for a walk together, walk our dogs, cruise, phones down, everybody, or we go play pickleball. I'm telling you, we're playing pickleball 5 days a week at least. And
Where do you do that
it's not even in our neighborhood. We have to go and there's a little pickleball court. I don't even know if it's the right size in a neighborhood just down from ours, and
at?
so
It's just open and you just.
well, not anymore. Now it's the hottest trend in the neighborhood. So it's always waiting. We've had to wait like last night 45 minutes. We just sat there and we're like staring at these people playing. So, like, let us rotate in at least, guys. There is what do you call that? There is protocol. There's another word for it. That's the word. You said it. 10 points. You get 10 points. There's an etiquette, and you invite people in. Hey, do you guys want to rotate with us? You want to play doubles? And
All right, questions for Bryan.
so, anyway,
Well, he didn't answer the question on how much percentage.
Oh
Yeah.
no! Here's what I mean. Here's what I mean.
You
My-
didn't understand.
my wife
it.
Like, let's say this.
Here,
Like,
for sure.
no. It's not between you and
Oh,
your
I
wife.
see what you're doing.
I'm
Yeah.
not saying that. I'm saying, let's say
Like
me and my
legitimate.
wife. Like, no, let's say you're baking a cake.
Yep.
And you put in these ingredients, and you know exactly what they're going to taste like.
yeah.
But then there's this weird taste, and you don't know where that ingredient came from. So, meaning, my fear is like when they go, like, I'm putting all this into my son, and then at some point I just go, I don't know where he got all that shit, like, and I just go, I don't even know who this kid.
So he's asking nurture versus nature.
Well, yeah, like how much of it is like just him as your kid, his own unique thing, and then how much is it,
Man,
Because I want it to be 100 me, maybe.
I feel that. I mean, truth. In a lot of ways, you're a product of the product that you were raised around. Truthfully,
Yeah.
so however, whatever that ratio is, it is what it is. But also, I think each one of us is uniquely made, and it's been fun to watch my kids kind of develop their own personalities and their own proclivities and what they're interested in, and so it's every kid. All three of my boys are completely different, and you have to kind of learn their language and the nuances and. One of them loves to be asked to go do stuff. One of them loves that. The others are like they're actually spitting images of me, and they annoy me to some degree. Can I say that?
Yeah.
I don't know if I can say that. But I love them all, but
Yeah.
yeah. So it's just fun. The important thing is that you get on your. All your kids want is to just know and to be known by you, right? It's like just be present, bro. That's the best thing I can say.
I can do that.
Yeah.
All right.
And fold some daggum clothes, will you?
No, I can have someone do the dishes for sure. Yeah.
Was this helpful at all tonight to anyone? Was this cool?
Yeah.
This was so fun. Thanks for your attention and time. Appreciate you.
Well, and this is, there's also, we're gonna get guys like Bryan. For you guys, I'm trying to say, and I say this all the time, Ryan. I got sober in 2011. In 2011, things were cheap.
Yeah.
I was lucky. You could rent a house for $1,500 a month and run a sober house out of it and make a couple thousand. And you could jump into a lot of different businesses back then. You could probably start your own roofing company pretty easily. You could start almost any business pretty easily. And money was easy to be made. And and you could buy a house.
Yeah.
And interest rates were 2%. And now 14 years later, people are making the same amount of money that I was making in 2011. They're making the same amount of money starting jobs. There's no retirement in these jobs. The houses are costing 3 times the amount of money that they were. And this is a tough environment for these guys. Mm-hmm. And we're doing things like fighting a state who literally puts billions of dollars into getting people that are still getting high their own homes. And we have these guys sitting out here that are grinding every day, doing the right thing. And there's not really a leg up for them. There's no pathway that's clear. And that's what I'm enrolling guys like you. I'm enrolling, that's why I said you got to bring our next guest. You got to tell us who that is. Guys with energy, guys that are leaders, guys that want to now reach back and create pathways. Not give anyone back there nothing, but to say, hey, dude, if you do this, this, and this, you'll make 120 grand in the next 2-3 years. Things like that, and that we can open up these pathways. And then leaders like Bryan who can fight our politicians with us and stand up with us and say, hey, can we stop funding housing where people are getting high and drunk and committing crimes and getting free housing? Can we stop doing that so that we can put funding over here so guys that are getting sober and have 6 months sober could maybe have a house for 6 months so that they could save their money and then buy a house? And can we do things like that? So that's kind of what this whole business thing is, and bringing leaders in and bridging this gap between those guys and up here, guys that are leading businesses, because that they need to be able to see that pathway. They need, because it does sometimes when these guys are grinding a job, and you go and you make $4,000 a month, and then taxes take, 1,200 of it, and then your car and your insurance take 800 of it, and then your rent takes 1,000, and then your groceries takes 500, and you're left with like $400 for any fun or anything to do. Well, what else are you going to do but turn back to, it's very tough. And it's also very tough what you're talking about, finding their passion.
Yeah.
So they got to be, to find your passion, you've got to get involved in some shit and have some opportunities, to see. You got offered that coffee job. What if that wouldn't happen? What if you weren't in that coffee stand and made that coffee that day? Who the hell knows? Right? Because a lot of this stuff is just opportunity showing up. Now, he happened to be a guy that met opportunity, but a lot of that is getting places and getting you guys opportunities so things like that show up. So you're not living this repetitive Groundhog Day of, resentment and hopelessness.
Here's what I want to say about that piece right there, is the best way to fight against this repetitive, relentless Groundhog Day thing is to have a passionate pursuit of something else. And so, again, you may have one job, get a second job, for now.
Yeah.
Get a third job. I had 3 jobs going.
What else are you doing? Yeah.
Because I was passionate about wanting to be able to propose to my wife and get a ring. That's what was driving me in that season, in those early days. Then all of a sudden, who would have ever known? The third job of the 3 jobs, the third job I got, coffee job. Now I'm in the coffee business.
Yeah.
What if I only had the bank job?
Yeah.
And was barely scraping by?
Well, to be honest, you'd probably be running a major bank right now. I mean, seriously. To be very honest.
I knew I had it all wrong.
Probably way more wealthy. You probably got screwed by that stupid coffee.
Here's what I'm saying. That kept me from spiraling. That kept me from going back. I was pursuing something. So what are you pursuing? What is that thing? Maybe this is a good season for you to dream again. To think about when you've been the happiest and you've been doing something that's been productive. What are you good at? What are you skilled at? What are you talented at? Mm-hmm. Do something in that vein. And for those of you that have a job currently, same thing that I just recently said about the fatherhood deal. Be present where you're planted. You never know what you or how you'll grow. Who's watching? Yeah. Right. I always tell our team members, when you work at Anthem, you never know if your next employer, your future spouse, your next best friend, who knows is going to walk in and notice your work ethic and go, hey, I'd love to bring you into my company. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm saying. Passionate pursuit. What are you pursuing right now?
But I think if we can all take something from some of the things that Bryan did here, one of the things that you got to eliminate out of your life is blame. It's just got to be gone. It's got to be out of your life because there's just no room for it. And one of the things that he did was hold himself responsible for everything that was going on at all times. And if he didn't, he had a breakdown because that was what led to the breakdown. See, I don't know him, but what happened before his breakdown was his head started getting filled up with complaints that he hadn't attacked. And when our heads get filled up with complaints that we haven't attacked, what we're really doing is not taking responsibility for our life, and we're blaming the people in it. And what he did and that caused the breakdown. A lack of responsibility and a head full of complaints caused the breakdown. Now, luckily, he doesn't use drugs, or he would have went on a 10-year-long bender. But he didn't. He went to a place of power, and that place of power said, what am I, God help me, what am I going to do differently? And he went there and came back and did it. And that's the whole process of recovery. Even though he's not in addiction or alcoholism, he's in recovery. He had a downfall where he hit bottom, and he went and did it to a place of power, and now he's working a recovery program where it's all responsibility and it's all ideas and passion, and that's exactly what we're doing here. So whether you knew it or not, you're in recovery with us. So.
I love it. I'm here for it, baby.
What time we got?
8:30.
Okay. Got any questions that are burning for Bryan, or want answered? We've answered them all.
I have one question.
Yeah.
Why do you think your parents invested, put their house on the market for whatever that they did to fund your coffee shop idea?
And what did that investment turn into for them?
Yeah,
He's like, they lost their house.
I think I was a good salesman.
You were 22?
Casted some great vision around this thing. It just, for us as a family, it's the kind of thing where we would. I remember a newspaper article ran about this franchise, and my mom, she cuts things out, puts it on the fridge, and then as a family we prayed about it. Like, oh, God, should we do this? Should we not? Da, da, da. And we just felt like, man, we're just gonna keep going until we get a hard no, and just it's faith, man. Like that was it.
That's crazy.
So, yeah. Mixed with a little bit of,
What John's really saying is, Mom, when are you going to put your house on the line?
there's better ways to do it these days.
How come you haven't done that for me yet, Mom?
And actually,
She did that. It just went to treatment, John.
that's a great question. Here's the thing. Whatever you're passionate about business-wise, is it John, is it?
Yeah.
Whatever if you were to start a business someday, what would it be? What would it be? Let me ask you, can we do a little role-play thing real quick?
Oh, I have no.
No. Think for a second. Think about it. If you could wake up tomorrow, you're doing your dream thing, what would it be?
My dream thing?
Dream thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like to do what my dad does. He does plants and stuff. I want to own my own
nursery.
Forest, like Cappuccino Brothers.
Carpenino Brothers.
Yeah.
Wait, like a nursery or something?
Yeah, I would like to do that. I think that would be really cool.
You serious?
I'm dead serious.
Okay, so step one. There's several nurseries around here, and I would just show up and say, "Look, I have a passion for plants. Like I want to handle plants. I want to whatever. Can I learn from you? Can I volunteer here for a couple weeks? See if this is something that I really like."
I've been too busy getting loaded though.
Yeah.
Well, you got to shift something up, right? So try that, and this is the worthwhile pursuit that I'm talking about. You go start to pursue that. And then maybe that leads to him going, hey, you know what? I love your work ethic, your hustle. You came to me out of nowhere, I'd love to hire you, right? You then begin to learn all the skills while you're getting paid.
Yeah.
Instead of paying to go to college to learn all this stuff.
This is why now next, and I haven't talked to Bryan about this, but this is why Bryan needs to be in the room with you guys without all this stuff, and we need to get down to business. Because Bryan was able to, just when I talked to him, Bryan has vision, and he has vision for each of your lives too. And he did it to me. I said we're going to start the coffee shop or whatever, and I don't even know if you remember what you said.
Oh yeah.
You said you need to get a bag of coffee.
Yeah.
And he brought me back to the first step, and he goes, no, you just got to get Battlefield a bag of coffee. We'll go down to Lano's, get a bag of coffee, and you'll start doing what you call them, pour overs.
You could pour over, sampling coffee out, little bags that.
Yeah.
I mean it.
And bring that bag to the farmer's market.
Becomes
and have Battlefield story on the back of it and Battlefield brew.
It's a purpose purchase. All of a sudden, right?
He just went right there for me, and I left the meeting like, oh shit, and my head was exploding. and that's exactly why he's here tonight, because if he didn't make my head explode when we met, I wouldn't have had him come here tonight. I don't deal with people. If you don't make me have ideas after we leave, I don't care that we met.
I didn't know so much was right down that meeting, Jamie.
Yeah. No, but then I'm like, oh shit. So each one of you need to talk to Bryan and just.
Well, it's simple. It's simple. What I just did with John.
It's a perfect vision. It really is.
What's the thing that if you could wake up tomorrow and go do that thing? What is that thing? What is that thing?
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else want to boldly share real quick? I'd love to wake up and do this.
We were talking about my son the other day. Kate was talking about my son, and we were talking about one of her brother, Kate's brother, loves skateboarding. But he might not be a great skateboarder. And I said, well, what would you tell him to do if he was your son? And I said, I would tell him to get the camera and start filming content and be the kid that's filming all the content of the skateboard. And if that kid started filming content at 10 years old, 11 years old, and he collected that content, and then it's
game over.
And and just like for me, I was stupid. I was like 5 foot and I was trying to play football in junior high and high school, and I'm trying to play football. I was never going to make it. And nobody gave me the vision, but I wish somebody gave me the vision of where I should have went. Because see, now if my son loves football but I know he's no good at it, I'm going to say, well, grab a clipboard and learn the plays and stand next to the coach, and you can be a football coach. And that's the kind of thing all of you need to bounce off people, because it's true. What you just did with John is so true, John.
Proximity, man. Just get in somebody's airspace and ask really good questions and be really curious and start to explore. And if the first thing that you kind of feel like, man, I'd love to do this, well, then go try it. And then you may realize, like, actually, I don't want to do that. Skip that.
Yeah.
Now on to the second thing. That's the pursuit, you guys. The pursuit of something better, something worthwhile, is going to be what keeps you out of this. Does that make sense?
And it's also, see, if it's true, John, if it's true, that's the thing. If it's true that you really love plants, and if you really want to be in that world, then you would want to be in any part of that world. And that's the part that's not true for people. They say, I want to be this. Yeah, but you don't want to be in the world bad enough to start here. You want to be the owner of a house painting company, but nobody says, I just want to paint houses. Well, if you don't want to just go paint a house today, then you don't want to own a painting company either. You see, he didn't just want to say, I want to own coffee shops. He started with, I love coffee. And that's the thing. People are giving this big ideas about what they want to do in their life. See, we were helping addicts. I was helping addicts when I was about 15 days sober. And when I was 15 days sober, I lied about how much sober time I had. You know why? I did. I was 15 days sober, and this is a true story in my life. I was 15 days sober, and I told everybody I was 45 days sober because it sounded better. So I changed my sober date from February 16th to January 11th. I made it up. I changed my date because people were asking me for help, and I felt stupid. I felt stupid with about 16 days helping people. So I started lying and saying I had 46 days. But really, at 16 days, there was this kid's mother, and the kid's name was Jamie, and she saw me at the meeting, and she said, would you drive Jamie home from the meeting? He's only 16 years old, and at the time I was 37, and she wanted somebody older to make sure his kid was safe, and so I started helping addicts at 16 days sober. And I didn't get paid to help my first addict until I was about 4 years sober, really. I mean, you don't get paid for it. You don't do it. You just jump in and do it. Nobody's stopping you. And so that's the thing about finding out your passion or what you love. Nobody's stopping you. And if you're stopped and you don't know what your passion is, that's just because you don't know what it is. And you're probably full of shit, to be honest. But if it's truly your passion, there's no one that can stop you. And if maybe you haven't found your passion, well, that's what you should be looking for.
Yeah,
really.
Well said. Well said.
So, I mean, I love how he takes it so clear. Just, boom, okay, well, if you want that, well, here's the starting point. You're not going to own a nursery. Do you know everything about it yet? You know what I mean? You don't even know yet, So, no, this is exactly why we want to do this. And now we're going to have Bryan back and do some private groups so that you guys we can get some more of this. And, Bryan, I admire you.
Thank you, bro.
There's people that I meet, and instantly just know, like, hey, this shit's cool. There's not going to be a rift. There's not going to be some weird shit I find out. Like, you know, I mean, it was pretty clear. And your energy and the exact vibe of what you're doing, man. And your coffee house is going to be a success because you would never let it not be a success. And,
Thank you, Lord.
you know, and I love your story of from people pleaser to telling the truth and having to lead people. Because it's different. You can't people please and lead people, right?
Right.
You know what I mean? And then taking that same level of leadership and bringing it into his family, and now having to lead his family. And I just encourage all you guys in the program to come and talk to Bryan, and we'll get some clips out there. And thank you, Bryan. Thank
Yeah,
you for
my pleasure.
thank you for coming. And,
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, guys.
Everybody at home, thank
Yeah,
you.
well,